Let's get started on Chapter 5, Network Protocols. Chapter 5 is divided into four main sections: an introduction to TCP/IP and basic IP configuration, DHCP, the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, DNS, the Domain Namespace, and other TCP/IP protocols. Let's get started on the first part, Introduction to TCP/IP and Basic IP Configuration. As you recall from Chapter 1, a networking protocol is a piece of software that allows computers to communicate with each other. And TCP/IP is the most widely used networking protocol. And as a technician, configuring TCP/IP will be a major part of your job. We talk about TCP/IP as if it is a single protocol, but it's not. It is two protocols. It is made up of the IP protocol, which is the Internet protocol, which is responsible for sending packets and performing routing, and it is composed of the TCP protocol, the Transmission Control Protocol, which is responsible for sending acknowledgments, for sending negative acknowledgments, and for performing flow control. IP sends the packets, and TCP sends the acknowledgments. And together, TCP/IP performs communications between computers. Let's take a look at TCP/IP. If we click on Start and go to the Control Panel and go to Network and Internet and go to the Network and Sharing Center and go to the right and select Change Adapter Settings, and if we right-click on our Ethernet card and select Properties, we can see there it is, the TCP/IP protocol. And we see that the description is that the TCP/IP protocol, the Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, is the default wide area network protocol that provides communication across diverse interconnected networks. And if we click on Properties, we can see the IP address of this computer. So what is an IP address? An IP address is a number which is assigned to a computer, and no two computers should have the same IP address. It is written in a dotted decimal notation, such as 65.20.10.5. And each one of these values here is called an octet because it is composed of 8 bits. Assigning IP addresses. All computers must have an IP address, and our job as network technicians is to make sure every computer has an IP address. So let's do a little demo. Let's assign an IP address to a computer. And when we configure IP on a computer, we have 3 key variables to configure: the IP address, the subnet mask, and the default gateway. To configure IP, we click on Start and select Control Panel and go to Network and Internet and go to the Network and Sharing Center and we select Change Adapter Settings. We right-click on our Ethernet card and select Properties. We put our cursor on the Internet Protocol TCP/IP v4 and we click on Properties, and we can see that this computer has no IP address. So we will assign an IP address to it. We will assign IP address 10.0.0.1. This is the IP address of this computer, and no other computer should have this IP address. And we also assign it a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0. So what is a subnet mask? A subnet mask tells us which part of the IP address is host ID and which part of the IP address is network ID. And if an octet has a 255 under it, then it is network ID. So if we look at the example right here, we see the IP address is 10 10.0.0.2, and the subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. So this indicates that this computer is on network 10 and that the host ID is 0.0.2. A third variable we configure is called default gateway. The default gateway is the IP address of the router, and the router it usually ends in .1 just by convention, but it doesn't have to. It's going to be the same network and usually the first node on the same network. So let's do it. Let's assign a default gateway of 10.0.0.1. So we have assigned the three key variables IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. We click on OK and OK. To test TCP/IP, we use ipconfig and ping. We use ipconfig to simply see what our current IP address is. To see what our IP address is, we go to the command prompt and type ipconfig and press the Enter key. Then we see that this computer has an IP address of 10.0.0.2, a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0, and a default gateway of 10.0.0.1. So this shows that we have properly configured IP. Another command we can use is called the ping command, and that allows us to determine whether or not we can communicate with another computer. When we ping another computer, we are sending a signal out to that other computer. And if a signal comes back, then we know the other computer is up and running, and all the cables between us and that other computer are good. To ping a computer, we go to the command prompt and type ping, followed by the IP address of that computer, and then we press the Enter key. And you can see I did get a reply from the computer that I was trying to ping that indicates that that computer is up and running. When you can ping another computer, you know that the other computer is up and running, and all the cables between you and the other computer are good. IP configuration. As network technicians, configuring IP is going to be a major part of our job. And when we configure IP, we configure the IP address, the subnet mask, the default gateway. And when we test IP, we use the ipconfig and the ping command. In summary, we saw that TCP/IP is a network protocol that allows computers to communicate with each other. And basic IP configuration consists of assigning an IP address, a subnet mask, and the default gateway. And testing IP configuration can be done by using the ipconfig command and the ping command. And you will be using the ping command a lot in your career. And this concludes our introduction to TCP/IP and IP configuration.